Okay, let's talk about Pee-wee starring as himself, or this is the Pee-wee Herman documentary, which is on HBO now. I forget its actual title. I'll have to put it in there. But this was pretty good. I have to admit, I was surprised at this, and I was surprised that I was really sucked into this. And I'm not really the type of guy that likes documentaries. And also, I'm going to just say this. I never liked Pee-wee Herman. I mean, Pee-wee Herman came to fame when I was about in 8th grade or something like that. So I was a teenager, and I remember watching the Pee-wee's Big Adventure film in the theaters and not liking it. I thought it was like not very well done. I kind of felt like there was something wrong with this man-child character, and it never really made sense to me in the context of that movie. Pee-wee lived in a house, but he didn't seem to have a job. He didn't seem to have anything, and I'm kind of wondering, like, how is he affording all this stuff? But here's the thing. I didn't really know much about Paul Reubens. That's Pee-wee Herman's real name. And this film really shows what he was like before and after the fame as Pee-wee Herman. And it also told about his fight with cancer, something that he didn't really talk about that. And now here's what I'm guessing. It was kind of weird seeing this film because there was often a lot of camera was pointed at him and he would just talk about stuff. I think this was a documentary that Paul Reubens himself wanted to make, but he knew that he was going to need some help. And he got, I think his name was something Wolf. It was Mike Wolf or something like that, to kind of direct it. And you actually see them going back and forth about agreeing about how this film should be done. So they kind of show Pee-wee's early life, which I didn't really know that much about. I didn't really know. I mean, my first encounter with him was Pee-wee's Big Adventure, but he was already pretty famous for being on David Letterman. But even before that, he had sort of established himself as I can't really remember the name of the group, the Groundlings. That was the name of this group. That he was a comedy team. And he established this character very early about this strange man-child. And he even appeared as Pee-wee himself on the dating game show and won. I didn't know that. I thought that was kind of odd. Yeah. And I could tell by the footage that they showed on the dating game, he hadn't really found the voice yet. But he had definitely figured out. It probably took him years to really develop this character. But the thing is, he was really only this character for a while. Like, he really just was that. And I can imagine that probably was very, it's not like it's not like he was some guy like Mike Myers who could be Austin Powers and Shrek. No, he had to be Pee-wee Herman. He was that guy. And I think it's a cautionary tale as far as like what you should commit yourself to, because he was very committed to this character. Not only that, the show showed that Paul Reubens was gay, and he knew that if he was open about it back then, he would never achieve show business stardom, which is what he really wanted, I guess. And to some extent, he was correct, because I think in the 80s, they would have judged him very harshly, and I don't really think he would have gotten the attention that... Honestly, he is pretty talented. What he did, I mean, there are some things that he does that are pretty funny, actually. So I will have to admit that to do that act and to do it so easily, it's not... I mean, it's a hard act to do, really. And the fact that he did it conceivably so effortlessly was, I think, a real testament to this man. And then it showed his kind of rise to fame on Pee-wee's Playhouse, which was, oddly enough, I mean, I remember, here's the thing, when that show came on, I deliberately chose not to watch it. It looked like a show that was just, I mean, it was definitely targeted for little kids, for sure. And I remember trying to watch episodes of it, and it wasn't like one of those kids that adults could appreciate, but To me, at that time, I just went like, okay, this is awful. This is just gross. And I have to admit, for me, I have a certain sense of humor, and the one thing I don't really like is a man-child. I really don't like seeing a man-child. Is that because I probably am one? I'll let you decide that. But, and I have a lot of self-loathing? I'll let you decide that. But essentially, yeah, this character was just always in it, and it was very hyperactive. It was very short attention span, and it was just hard to watch for me because, I don't know. I don't really like all that stuff where it just changes and changes and changes. For me, I kind of feel like, why don't you develop it a bit more? And what's funny is there's actually, I didn't know this, but there was apparently an episode of Pee-wee's Playhouse where he feeds a dog, and they put the camera on the dog and they show the dog eating its food for like 2 straight minutes. And I'm kind of going like, that's crazy that they did that. But apparently Paul Rubens was very inspired by the films of Andy Warhol, where he would just do stuff like that. And he wanted to be very avant-garde, and I think that was he just kind of got into comedy, and then he sort of took on this character, and then he had to stay that character. And the issue was he was very busy as that character. He was constantly on the show, and he was constantly making appearances, and so he didn't really give himself a personal life. Is really what happened. And so I think it was after when he made his film, the Big Top Pee-wee, which was a flop. I remember when this film came out, it just kind of came and went. And it really should have been a bigger film, because at the time, Pee-wee had Pee-wee's Playhouse, and it was huge back then. It was something to see. And then he did Big Top Pee-wee, and I don't think anybody saw it, really. And then after that was the incident where he was in an X-rated theater, and if you don't know about this, he was arrested for indecent exposure there, and something I didn't really, and I remember when that happened, and of course we all went like, yeah, we all knew that guy was a pervert and stuff like that. And I have to admit, I probably threw my hand in as far as making fun of him, because honestly, when I heard that had happened, I kind of went like, oh, for crying out loud, Pee-wee, jeez. It's just like, at the same time, I felt like not a lot of people were surprised, because they kind of thought like this guy did have some sort of, this guy had to act like a child, for crying out loud, just to do his little bit. So naturally, but he was a full-grown adult. We knew there was that side to him. So should we have been surprised? No, we shouldn't have. What really surprised me is something I maybe have heard of. Like in 2002, they did a raid on his place because they had heard there was a lot of child pornography there. Now, eventually, I believe Paul Rubens was exonerated of those charges, which I'm kind of glad that he was, because it's like, it's very clear that the world that Paul Rubens wanted, where he would be accepted for who he was, not as Pee-wee, but simply as himself, just didn't really exist. He had to create this persona and just stay in that persona the whole time. And I don't know, I can kind of relate to this. I sort of feel like there's something about show business life and just life in general where you have to mask all the time, and it just hurts, and he felt the brunt of that. Paul Rubens was in a few films. I think he was in a film called Blow, and if you never saw him in Mystery Men, he plays a really funny character in that. Mystery Men is one of the most underappreciated superhero films of all time, and you need to discover that if you have not discovered that. But I was surprised to hear that, he kept his battle with cancer under wraps, didn't really publicize it, but I'm guessing this movie was supposed to be that. But the movie the documentary reveals that he kind of fell through. He didn't really want to do the documentary anymore. And that he did there was one scene in it where he just makes a recording, and you don't even see his face on it. It looks like he was just filming on his smartphone or something like that, where he said, like, I just really wanted to bring love in the world and stuff like that. And then it shows I don't know where they got this clip, but where Pee-wee is flying, and then he says goodbye, and it's very heartwarming, actually. So I recommend watching this, because this is a really, not only a good documentary, but it really shows what the man was really like.